The Brahmaputra River, originating in the Himalayas and flowing through China, India and Bangladesh, is a lifeline for millions. However, this vital resource has become a point of contention between India and China. The water wars theory suggests that as populations grow and demand for water increases, countries sharing transboundary rivers will resort to conflict. China, the upstream riparian, controls the river's headwaters. India, the downstream riparian, relies heavily on the river's flow. This power dynamic, coupled with the lack of a formal water-sharing treaty, has led some to believe that conflict is inevitable. Adding to these concerns is China's ambitious dam-building program on the Brahmaputra. India fears that these dams could be used to manipulate water flow, potentially causing droughts or floods downstream. While the water wars theory might seem applicable to the Brahmaputra at first glance, a closer look reveals a different picture. The Brahmaputra basin is characterized by a unique rainfall pattern. The Tibetan Plateau, where the river originates in China, receives significantly less rainfall compared to the downstream areas in India. Estimates of China's contribution vary, but even the highest estimates suggest that it is significantly less than the water received from rainfall in the Indian portion of the basin. This means that India's water security is less dependent on the Brahmaputra's flow from China than commonly perceived. The abundant rainfall in the eastern Himalayas ensures a relatively stable water supply for India even during the dry season. Furthermore, both countries have shown a willingness to cooperate on transboundary water issues, albeit with limitations. The actual contribution of China to the Brahmaputra's flow is a subject of much debate and often becomes a source of misunderstanding between India and China. Various figures have been cited regarding China's contribution, leading to confusion and fueling anxieties. Some estimates suggest that China contributes up to 70% of the Brahmaputra's water, while others claim it to be as low as 10%. A more accurate way to assess China's contribution is to consider the water flow at the point where the Brahmaputra enters India. Studies based on this approach suggest that China's contribution is closer to 30% of the total flow. While this is still a significant amount, it is considerably lower than the inflated figures often cited. A more nuanced understanding requires considering the temporal and spatial variations in water flow. Climate change adds another layer of complexity to the Brahmaputra equation. The Himalayan glaciers which feed the river are melting at an alarming rate due to rising temperatures. This has led to concerns about reduced water flow in the Brahmaputra in the long run, potentially exacerbating tensions between India and China. However, the impact of climate change on the Brahmaputra is not so straightforward. Studies suggest that the Brahmaputra basin, particularly the Indian side, is likely to experience increased precipitation in the coming decades due to climate change. This increased rainfall, coupled with the existing high rainfall in the region, could potentially offset the reduced flow from glacial melt. Increased rainfall can also lead to more frequent and intense floods, causing widespread damage and displacement. While water scarcity might not be the primary trigger for conflict over the Brahmaputra, the construction of dams has become a major point of contention between India and China. Both countries view dams as strategic assets for energy security, irrigation, and flood control. China, being upstream, aggressively pursues dam construction for hydropower. These dams raise concerns in India about potential water flow disruption downstream. India fears China could release water during floods or withhold it during droughts. Adding to India's anxieties is the lack of transparency from China regarding dam operations. In response, India plans to construct its own dams on the Brahmaputra. The Brahmaputra has become a stage for a geopolitical tug-of-war, with dams as pawns in this complex game of power and influence. The Brahmaputra River, with its immense hydrological and geopolitical significance, stands at a crossroads. While the water wars narrative might paint a bleak picture of inevitable conflict, the reality is far more nuanced. The Brahmaputra has the potential to become a symbol of cooperation and shared prosperity. The key lies in fostering trust and transparency between India and China. Cooperation, not competition, ensures the Brahmaputra's long-term health and benefits for all. By choosing cooperation, India and China can ensure the Brahmaputra flows as a river of peace and prosperity.